Hello, my name is Ryan Freeman. Welcome to Poetry in the Park. Today I have a poem from my Harvard classic, which has fallen apart. So I have these two loose pages, and the title of the poem is Thanatopsis. From the Greek, thanatos meaning death and opsis meaning sight. I looked that up online. I did not study Greek. So it means to look at death, to consider death. And the name of the poet is William Cullen Bryant. Born in 1794, died in 1878. And I read online that he was from New England, but he lived a long portion of his life in New York, where you can find some memorials, statues, and even schools dedicated in his honor. So a pretty well-known or established American poet at that time. I even heard in my scant research that he was one of the first American poets to really be taken seriously in the UK. So Thanatopsis, to look at death, to consider death, sounds kind of grim, but with anything, you can take it very solemn, or you can take it very gay, or cynical, or any way you like. I'm just going to give you my interpretation. This is definitely not something you need to stick by, but just these are my own thoughts. I've only read this poem one time. This will be the second time. I will do it out loud for you. Then I'll go through it. It's a long poem, so bear with me. I'll try to make it interesting. If it's not interesting, go ahead and look at the background. Enjoy the falling leaves, and the sound of the birds, and the planes, and the hikers. Here we go. Thanatopsis by William Cullen Bryant. To him who in the love of nature holds communion with her visible forms, she speaks a various language for his gayer hours. She has a voice of gladness and a smile, an eloquence of beauty, and she glides into his darker musings with a mild and healing sympathy that steals away their sharpness ere he is aware. When thoughts of the last bitter hour come like a blight over thy spirit, and sad images of the stern agony and shroud and pall and breathless darkness in the narrow house make thee to shudder and grow sick at heart, go forth under open sky and list to nature's teachings, while from all around earth and her waters and the depths of air comes a still voice. Yet a few days, and thee, the all-beholding sun, shall see no more in all his course, nor yet in the cold ground where thy pale form was laid with many tears, nor in the embrace of ocean shall exist thy image. Earth that nourished thee shall claim thy growth to be resolved to earth again, and lost each human trace, surrendering up thine individual being, shalt thou go to mix forever with the elements, to be a brother to the insensible rock, and to the sluggish clod which the rude swain turns with his share and treads upon. The oak shall send his roots abroad and pierce thy mold. Yet not to thine eternal resting place shalt thou retire alone, nor couldst thou wish couch more magnificent. Thou shalt lie down with patriarchs of the infant world, with kings, the powerful of the earth, the wise, the good, fair forms, and hoary seers of ages past, all in one mighty sepulchre. The hills, rock-ribbed and ancient as the sun, the vale, stretching in pensive quietness between the venerable woods, rivers that move in majesty, and the complaining brooks that make the meadows green, and poured round all, old ocean's gray and melancholy waste, are but the solemn decorations all of the great tomb of man. The golden sun, the planets, all the infinite host of heaven, are shining on the sad abodes of death. Through the still lapses of ages, all that tread the globe are but a handful to the tribes that slumber in its bosom. Take the wings of morning, pierce the bark in wilderness, or lose thyself in the continuous woods where rolls the Oregon, and hears no sound save his own dashings, yet the dead are there. And millions in those solitudes since first the flight of years began have laid them down in their last sleep. The dead reign there alone. So shalt thou rest, and what if thou withdraw in silence from the living, and no friend take note of thy departure? All that breathe will share thy destiny. The gay will laugh when thou art gone. The solemn brood of care plod on, and each one as before will chase his favorite phantom. Yet all these shall leave their mirth and their employments, and shall come, and make their bed with thee, as the long train of ages glide away. The sons of men, the youth in life's green spring, and he who goes in the full strength of years, matron and maid, the speechless babe and the gray-headed man, shall one by one be gathered to thy side by those who in their turn shall follow them. So live, that when thy summons comes to join the innumerable caravan which moves to that mysterious realm where each shall take his chamber in the silent halls of death, thou go not like the quarry slave at night, scourged to his dungeon, but sustained and soothed by an unfaltering trust. Approach thy grave like one who wraps the drapery of his couch about him and lies down to pleasant dreams. Okay, so I never know how I will read a poem. And now I am a bit hammy, maybe a bad actor, but I enjoy putting a little energy and even physical motion. And if I could, I would try to sing it. I think that's one of the best things about poetry, is not necessarily to get it all right, to understand every single nook and cranny of how it was formulated, and necessarily to deeply reflect and ponder, but it is to enjoy even just the sound and the act of saying it. Poetry, that's what's beautiful about it. It is the love of language that draws poets to poetry. And so it's always fun to read different poets, and I'm by far an amateur. So, but that's my own 2 cents. Okay, so William Cullen Bryant's Thanatopsis, To Look at Death. All right, so I won't go through every single line, or maybe I will go through a lot of them, but let's just clear up what he was saying in them. So, to him who in the love of nature holds communion with her visible form, she speaks. So, if you are in the love of nature, you hold communion with her visible forms. Communion. There is a communication where nature is actually communicating to you through her visible forms. The leaves are talking to you. If you have eyes to see and ears to listen, you can learn something from all of nature's forms, from the birds, from the sun, from the sky, from the clouds, from other people, from animals. All is nature, right? Well, I don't want to get into that debate, although it's very interesting. Nature, as we normally think of it, communicates to us, right? You see the seasons. Winter, the earth is barren, right? Springtime, it comes alive. Summer, it's in its full strength. And fall, it starts to die, just like our lives. The microcosm and the macrocosm. You can learn a lot about yourself by observing nature. The planet, this park, whatever. And she has various language for his gayer hours. So when you're gay, and I'm not talking about, that was a really bad impression, but I'm talking about happiness, right? I love the word gay, because you could say happy, you can say joyful, but there's a certain feeling with gay, because when you're gay, you want to sing, you want to dance, and when we are in our gay hours, nature has a voice of gladness and a smile. So when you're happy and you're outside, it is wonderful, right? Even the sight of the birds, they seem to be talking to you. Nature is communicating to you. So I think it was Sartre, that existential philosopher who said nature is mute. And then Terence McKenna, the, recently deceased 20 years ago, philosopher, said Sartre was an idiot. Nature's not mute. Nature's talking to you. Take a mushroom and then look at nature. Nature has a lot to say to you. And you don't even need to take psychedelics. You could just sit in nature and listen, right? When you stop checking your social media or your bank account or thinking about the future, thinking about the past, and you just really are here in nature, she's got a lot to say. And through her various visible forms, and in your gayer hours, how does she sound? Joyful. She gives you with gladness and a smile, the eloquence of beauty as she glides into your darker musings. So now, when you are brooding darkly in, you're darkly musing. Musing is thinking, right? You're thinking something over. She comes in with healing sympathy that steals away their sharpness, ere he is aware. So nature, this is, I never thought about this. I never connected it with this, but when it's always been actually since I was a teenager. I'm not always happy. I'm not always gay. Sometimes I have darker musings. And when I would have my darker musings, I would just instinctively go outside to the backyard, right? That's nature in a suburb. And I used to go hiking in the hills alone at night, even though it was illegal. And there were mountain lions. Well, probably not so many, but just there was something soothing about that. A lot of people with mental health issues do find that nature is very calming. It's one of the reasons a lot of people go camping. A lot of people like to take long walks in the hills or in the forest or go fishing because nature soothes you. It takes that, what does it say? Their sharpness, steals away their sharpness. We get poked by life. People hurt us. Our ambitions shatter. We lose things that we loved, and it feels the pain of life can be very sharp. But nature can steal it away. Yeah. Okay. Over thy spirit and sad images of the stern agony and shroud and pall and breathless darkness and the narrow house make thee to shudder and grow sick at heart. So really when you go into that sickness of heart and you're shuddering and the darkness, right? Maybe, think of that figuratively, the darkness of your life. Maybe you don't know where you're going. Maybe you don't know what all this is. Go forth. Okay, that's the next line. So if you really are shuddering from that darkness, go forth under the open sky and list. There's a big difference when you are under the open sky and you're under a roof, okay? Now, I have this on a daily experience. I like to be inside. I like to surf my computer. I like to spend time with my family who's inside or read a book on a couch. But when I get feeling sad, when I feel even bothered, when I feel like I can't calm down, when I feel like my head and my thoughts are running circles around and I'm starting to go insane, I go sit outside and I look at the birds, I look at the leaves, and I get calmer. It literally soothes me better than a beer. And so I totally agree. And so go forth under the open sky and list. List is an old way of saying listen to nature's teachings, while from all around earth and her waters and the depths of air comes a still voice. So even though nature has a myriad of forms, there will be a voice that speaks to you if you listen, if you list. But if you go outside and you're playing on your phone or chatting, which is fun. I do that. Sometimes I like to surf the headlines and get myself riled up about all the crazy stuff that's going on this earth. But if I quiet down and just list, man, nature will speak to you. You will get blissed out out of your mind. You have to trust in that silence. You have to trust in your eyes. You know, you're going to, perhaps if you haven't done it ever, you might be a little nervous. You might be reaching for your phone or a book or in your head. But I think if you really do go outside and list and watch and breathe, nature will speak to you. Nature will, more and more, and you start to build up a communion, right? One of the first words in this entire poem. Nature is alive. That's the crazy thing. That's the big secret that no one likes to talk about. Nature's fucking alive. This whole universe is alive, and we're part of it. And we have a communion with it. We're not this isolated body of flesh in a hostile universe. No, this is our mother. This is our home, right? And the more you go out into nature, the more you have this communion and this relationship with her, the more you will feel that. It's a beautiful thing. But this is the voice that William Cullen Bryan, right? Thanatopsis. We're just still talking about death. This is what this leaf has died. It's fallen off the tree and is on its way to death, right? Thanatopsis. That's what all of these leaves are showing us, right? They used to be nothing but a molecule, a small assortment of cells that grew into a leaf, green and still growing, and then finally they turned orange or yellow or brown, and they fall, and then they will decay, and they will go into the earth. And that's what this Thanatopsis is about, is literally just looking at nature, listening to nature. What is the lesson? And he says in this second stanza, the voice. What is the voice? Thine individual being shalt thou go to mix forever with the elements, to be a brother to the insensible rock, and to the sluggish clod which the rude swain turns with his share and treads upon. The oak shall send his roots abroad and pierce thy mold. So just like these leaves, so will our bodies eventually fall to rest on this earth. And we shall, in William Cullen Bryant's wordings, to mix forever with the elements, right? What's going to happen to this hair? What's going to happen to these eyes, this nose, this chin? You know, I mean, unless I get mummified, and even that has definitely got a shelf life, right? If we're talking about the long, long millennia of time, eons of time, it will all go into these elements, right? We are all in this massive mix. And of course we say, I'm alive, that's dead, life and death. But eventually I will go back into the earth, you know, and then even the earth. Perhaps one day, who knows, we'll break apart and drift into the solar system and form new planets or form new stars, and who knows. It's like there's constant flux of these elements, and we're alive for a short time. That's the meaning of this poem. You can go through these words and look at all of them, but that's what it's saying. If you go down to the third stanza, yet not to thine eternal resting place shalt thou retire alone, nor couldst thou wish couch more magnificent. So the fact that you're going to die, you're not going to die. You're not just going to go and retire and mix with the elements alone. No, all of your ancestors are there. All of the great kings, all the famous people you read about in history are going there. And the powerful of the earth, the wise, the good, fair forms, and hoary seers of ages past. Hoary is like grayish white old people. So the beautiful, the ugly, we all go back to the earth. Rock-ribbed and ancient as the sun, the vales are valleys, stretching in pensive quietness between the venerable woods, sort of wise and old, rivers that move in majesty in the complaining brooks, that make the meadows green and poured round all, old oceans gray and melancholy waste, are but the solemn decorations all of the great tomb of man. This is, he's using it, he's calling the earth a tomb, and and these venerable woods, those old trees, the rivers, the brooks. He says complaining brooks. I don't know. Maybe they complain to him. I don't know. Those are the ornamentation, right? And even these beautiful trees, they're growing on things that died before, that nourish the soil. In majesty and the complaining brooks, yes, we've heard this before. The planets, all the infinite hosts of heaven, are shining on the sad abodes of death. So the planets, if you look up in the night sky and you see all of those bright orbs, the infinite host of heavens, right? There's so many stars up there, you couldn't count them all. They are shining down. The light is coming down from millions and millions of miles down here on the sad abodes of death. Are these sad abodes of death? Well, these are, I think, sort of gay abodes of death. Perhaps they're sad. When you think about death, of course, it makes us sad because we're alive and life is sweet and we want to suck more of its juice out. We want it to run down our gullet. We want our family to live forever. We want our business to thrive forever. We want our country to never collapse. Yet it all will, right? That's the lesson from nature, right? Nature's always saying that everything changes. Everything is in a state of flux. Things grow up and then they fall down. The seasons change. Our earth is changing. The universe is changing. So, is it sad? It just is what it is. But we'll get back to this sad versus gay part at the end. So we're gonna go ahead and skip through a little bit. Let's see, sorry about that. Save his own dashings, yet the dead are there, and millions in those solitudes. Since first the flight of years have begun, have laid down in their last sleep, the dead reign there alone. So, talking about all the millions of people who have lain down dead, so shalt thou rest. So you will rest like all of those before. In the silence from the living, and no friend take note of thy departure. So he's saying, so what if when you die, no one takes note of you dying? Who cares? Well, of course we care, right? A lot of people think about, who's going to talk at my memorial? Who will actually put flowers on our grave? But does it really matter? But he says, all that breathe will share thy destiny. Whether or not your friends or your family or the world mourns your loss, they're all going to join you eventually anyways. So, they'll be with you eventually, don't worry. The gay will laugh when thou art gone, right? Because that's what gay people do. They're happy. They like to laugh. The solemn brood of care. So the solemn people, the opposite of the gay, the people who like to stay in very dark, serious thoughts, they're going to brood of care. The gay will still be gay. The solemn will be solemn. But what you need to do before you die, plod on, keep going, keep walking, and each one as before will chase his favorite phantom. Yet all these shall leave their mirth and their employments, and shall come and make their bed with thee. So just keep plodding, keep going. Don't worry about the other people, because they're going to do what they're going to do. They're going to be gay, they're going to be solemn, they're going to chase their favorite phantom, right? We're chasing phantoms all the time. We're chasing success, we're chasing permanence, we're chasing whatever. We're chasing these forms that are constantly mutating, constantly changing. And as soon as we think we have success, we don't feel it, right? As soon as we think we're happy, then suddenly happiness starts to change, right? So we're chasing our favorite phantoms. Life's a game, life's a drama. Doesn't mean it's bad, doesn't mean it's sad. Life, that's a beautiful part. We'll get back to that at the very end. As the long train of ages glide away, so many, many different ages of men, thousands of years, millions of years, as they start to go away, the youth in life's green spring, and he who goes in the full strength of years, matron and maid, the speechless babe, and the gray-headed man shall one by one be gathered to thy side by those who in their turn shall follow them. So everyone, the young, the old, the beautiful, the ugly, they're all coming. So live. All right. So this is the last stanza. This is the advice. Okay. When we consider that the infinite host of heaven is shining down on this massive, what is it, sepulcher? This tomb, this stone tomb, where we are all going to rest and mix with the elements. So what about it? Well, he says in the very last stanza, so live. That when thy summons comes to join the innumerable caravan, many people traveling together, innumerable, well, we can't count how many people die and go to the earth. I mean, who knows how many that has been and will be. So when you're going to join that caravan to go back into the earth, which moves to that mysterious realm, mystery, because death is a mystery. We actually don't know. So I could talk about my body physically. Yes, my molecules and atoms will go into the earth or be mummified or treated or whatever. Or perhaps I'll be eaten by a great white shark. I don't know. But what happens to our consciousness? I don't know. We don't know. Literally, we don't know. We don't even know what consciousness is. That's the hard problem. Yeah, weird, right? So it's a mystery to that. So when we go and we're summoned and we go to that mysterious realm where each shall take his chamber in the silent halls of death, thou go not like the quarry slave at night. So when you finally do go to death, he's recommending go not like the quarry slave at night. Quarry is like something that is hunted, a slave, right? So not sort of a debased feeling. Think of a slave running away at night. You don't just use that as an image. You don't want to be like that, running into death, right? Afraid from not enjoying, from having a meager existence, and running in fear, scourged, whipped to his dungeon. You don't want that image of being like that, going to death, but sustained. I'm fine. And soothed. I'm calm. By an unfaltering trust, unfaltering, stable, doesn't waver, rock solid. Approach thy grave. So go into death, calm, fine, happy, not trembling, not like a slave in the night being whipped, like one who wraps the drapery of his couch about him and lies down to pleasant dreams. Just, death. So that is Thanatopsis, A Look at Death, by William Cullen Bryant, the famous American poet from New England, who is honored and revered in New York. You can find a statue if you're in New York, as well as a school named after him. And, I sort of didn't talk about every single line and all of the different imagery. I hope that if you like that, you can read it yourself. Don't be shy. I'm shy when I read poems. Like, you see people walking around here, right? Sometimes you just have to tune people out to actually read a poem with vigor and life, like it was written to read. But I hope that you will think about death. Perhaps you have your own slant. Perhaps you have your own critique or criticism for my ideas or William Cullen Bryant, and that's fine. We don't all have to agree. But I think if there's one thing to take away, it's whether you're sad or you're happy, go out into nature. Listen to her messages. Perhaps she has something to say to you. Perhaps you will reflect on death as well. I like to reflect on death every once in a while. I don't brood over it all the time, but I like to think about it because it does help me to live. I look at my chest hairs that grow white, as the years pass by, and I realize, like these leaves, I'm getting older, and I'm falling, and pretty soon I will actually die as well. And it could be in 20 years, could be in 50 years, could be tomorrow. And it reminds me to live. So if you have a dream, you want to go travel to a place, to a country, you want to move to a city, you want to have children, you want to start a business, you want to start a new hobby, whatever it is, I think thinking about death especially in this way. And he does say that, right? So live, right? He said what at the very last. So live, right? Why should you live? So that you don't have regrets, and fear when you go to death. Like, actually enjoy life. The more I think that you embrace life, I think the better you'll be able to embrace death. And conversely, I think the more that you embrace death, the more that you understand that you're going to die, contemplate your death, I think the more you'll be able to embrace life, because life's too short. Life's too short to listen to what other people want you to do in your life. Life is too short to follow a herd or a crowd. Life's too short to be shy and not do and not say what you want to do and what you want to say. Consider death so that you can live. My name's Ryan Freeman. Hope you like this. I will see you soon. Bye.